Hello. So lots of people believe that anxiety and worry is something that keeps us safe in some way, or it helps us to deal with things. So worrying about things beforehand helps us to deal with things if they were to happen, or is helpful in preparing us in some way if something difficult happens, and indeed also might prevent something unwanted or challenging from happening. Or it can also look like we might miss something if we're not worrying about it, or like we're the one that's got to be the person who worries about this. And this might be something that's conscious, but it can also be quite unconscious as well, that we just have this sort of background record player of anxiety, and particularly like low grade worry, that it can be hard to kind of give up on if it's looking like it's useful, beneficial, or keeping us safe, or helping us to prepare should something difficult or challenging happen. So you might notice that it's things like, looking out for physical symptoms in your body. It might be that you feel you need to be vigilant within your relationship to monitor how things are going and worry about what did he or she mean when they said that, or this might also occur in friendships. You might be worrying about what you've said to somebody and what that might mean and what the outcome might be. Or it might be that it feels useful to worry about your children in terms of, kind of looking out for how are they doing, what's their mood like, is there any signs of, that they're unwell or that their well-being is affected. It might be that you feel that you need to worry about money, because in some way, if you're not thinking about it and worrying about it, then suddenly you might have no money in your bank accounts. There's lots and lots of different ways that this can show up. And what I'm going to explore here is that even though it can look this way, that anxiety and worry is keeping us safe, what if it isn't? So what if there is zero benefit to ruminating and worrying and trying to prepare ourselves ahead of time for something? So I think that there's some, kind of like biological basis for why this looks like it might be useful. But what I'm talking about is like so we do have a response within us that if something is immediately dangerous to us, we have a fear response or a stress response that immediately kicks in, and it's nothing to do with our mind. Our body just reacts and does what it needs to do. So if we were going to step out in front of a car, step out in the road and we suddenly saw a car, we would throw ourselves back. Now that's not something we have to consciously think about. So immediate physical danger is something that we don't have to worry about at all. We've got a completely fantastic biological design that's going to deal with that for us. So I'm going to use an analogy to help explain, or a metaphor to help explain what I'm pointing to. So if you can imagine that when you're driving on a motorway really fast in a car, and you know how the landscape just kind of whips past you, and you can't really see what's happening because you're going pretty fast. Or it might be, if you think about if you're on a train as well that goes really fast. So you can kind of see, oh look, we're in the countryside, or we're passing through a city, a town. But you can't necessarily see all of the individual, kind of like animals, or notice what colour the trees are, or notice what buildings are over in the distance. So when you're going really fast, it's actually really hard to notice what is going on outside of you. Now, anxiety and worry is really just speeded up overthinking. It's a mind that, rather than being quiet and settled, is chewing on something, is continually thinking about something, and that equals it being speeded up and fast. And when this looks like it's helpful, then we're going to keep on doing it. But what if, a bit like when you're in a car, if you're going really fast, you're not really able to notice what's going on outside of you, around you. But if you were in a car that was going more slowly, then you'd be able to notice maybe the colour of a front door on a building, or the exact kind of like colour of a blossom on a leaf, or the colour of someone's jacket as they're walking past. So the slower that you're going, if you're walking as an extension of this, you'd see even more of what's going on around you. But if you were in a car that was going more slowly, you're absolutely able to notice more of what is going on around you. So, and this is the same with the mind, that actually it looks like if we're worrying about something, speeding ourselves up, this is useful. But the complete opposite, or certainly what I've seen, the complete opposite of this is true. That when we're not worrying about something and our mind is quieter and more settled, it's actually much more easy to notice what we need to notice. Because a quiet mind is able to pick up things and notice things that need to be paid attention to. So I want to suggest that also being safe, dealing with difficult things isn't something, so kind of to go a step further with this, isn't even something that the mind does. There's something in us, there's a common sense, there's a wisdom, there's a connection to all of life, there's the ability to deal with things is absolutely built into us. And that doesn't come from the thinking mind, it doesn't come from our cognition, it's just part of the human design, it's just how we're built. That if something challenging were to come along, then we'd know how to deal with it in the moment. We're connected to that common sense and that wisdom and that greater intelligence of life. That it's never, the answer's very rarely going to come from a busy overthinking mind. So not only is the worrying about something speeding your mind up, and you get to feel that in your body and you get all the symptoms of anxiety, and it is actually more likely to mean that you're actually going to miss something. So a bit like when you're in the car going really fast, if it was slower, you're much more likely to notice something you need to pay attention to. So not only is that going on, but the speeded up thinking, the busy mind means possibly you're less likely to notice something. Also over here, all of the solutions that you need to challenging things, anything you need to pay attention to with money or your children or your relationships or your health or anything that you might be worrying about, there's a different part of you that absolutely is going to point that out to you and nudge you in the right direction. And you don't just get one chance with wisdom, okay, or common sense. It's not that it's only going to nudge you once, like, oh, go and get that back problem too, or go and get that pain in your stomach looked at, or ask your child about that. You're not just going to get one nudge and you miss it. Like, if it's something you need to pay attention to, life is going to keep nudging you in your wisdom and your common sense to pay attention to it. And again, sometimes if our mind is quieter, more slowed down, so we're not speeding along the motorway, it's also much more easy to hear that common sense and that wisdom. So I find with the people that I work with that sometimes giving up the habit of anxious thinking and worried thinking in a busy mind can be very difficult for this very reason, that somewhere deep inside of them, they believe it's keeping them safe. And if this is you, I'd really love you just to maybe listen to this video a couple of times, see if what I'm saying resonates with you and is helpful to know. So I'm just going to summarize it again, that actually when we've got speeded up thinking, which is what anxiety and worry is, overthinking, we're zooming down the motorway in our mind, we're less likely to know what needs to be paid attention to, and we're also connected to something that's nothing to do with our mind, that's 100% going to keep us safe. It's 100% going to help us to deal with challenging things should they come along. So I hope this is helpful. If you have found it helpful, please do subscribe below to my channel so that you don't miss any new videos that I release. And thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.